How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. And this is going to be another episode of my TV show collection. And I was going to try to do this everything in one episode, but I think I'll split it up into two because it would probably go on too long. So, starting off with, we're in the letter R, and this is one of the greatest westerns of all time. This is Rawhide. 8 seasons starting in 1959. And the star of the show was this guy right here in the corner that you can't see very well. A guy named Eric Fleming. Eric Fleming. He played the trail boss, Gil Favor. And the guy whose picture you can see prominently is Clint Eastwood, who played the ramrod, Rowdy Yates. Now, he wasn't the star of the show, but he became very, very famous during the run of this show, and that's when he made all of his, during that time he made his famous Italian westerns, and he became a big name on TV and in movies as well. And Eric Fleming, unfortunately, is kind of a forgotten actor now, and he was very, very good. So the other guy is Paul Brinegar as Wishbone. He was the cook. And great shows, great guest stars, very serious, good writing, everything, good action. I didn't bring all these down here because I have a whole string of them. But here is season number 8. Now, this one, Clint Eastwood was the star of the program because Eric Fleming had left. So, 8 seasons of Rawhide. Fantastic show. Next up is another sort of a Western. It's called The Rebel, starring Nick Adams. This was on 2 seasons, 1959 to 1961. Did not see this when I was growing up, and I was very curious about it, so I'm happy to have this. He plays a character named Johnny Yuma, who was a Confederate Army soldier. And now he's riding through the West, and he's trying to find himself, and he gets involved in all kinds of adventures. And he's also writing. He's trying to be a writer. Now, one of the cool things about this, besides the performance of Nick Adams, he was a very, very intense actor, and a lot of great guest stars and very serious stories. Johnny Cash sings the title song. Johnny Yuma was a rebel. So it's kind of cool to hear Johnny Cash every time you put in an episode of The Rebel. So, very good show. Next up, I have several episodes of The Red Skelton Show. These are taken from 1955 to 1958. I've probably seen all these. I used to watch this all the time when I was a kid. Great, great comedian. Physical comedy, and also just a very lovable guy, and deserves to be... It'd be nice if every episode of I don't know how many seasons it was on, maybe 17 or 18 or something like that, I'm not sure, but yeah, very, very good show. Red Skelton, lovable guy. Next up, I'm not sure why I picked this up at a flea market or something, a thin pack of Reno 911, which is actually very funny. So, all right. Next up is, I have these 3 volumes of a TV detective show called Richard Diamond, starring David Jansen, 1957 to 1960. 75 episodes, and I think that may be the entire series. I'm not sure. Richard Diamond. I've never seen any of these. Now, this was one of the first TV appearances of a young lady named Mary Tyler Moore, who in season number 3 played the switchboard operator, whose name was Sam. Right? Her name was Sam, and she would mostly be seen... Her legs were visible, and I think sometimes they may have shown her face. Haven't watched any of them yet, but yeah. So you got to hear Mary Tyler Moore's voice, and that's kind of one of the first things she did back in television. So Richard Diamond. Next up, I have 5 episodes of The Rifleman, which is another great Western from late 50s, early 60s, and I love this show. I would actually like to start collecting all of them. Chuck Connors and Johnny Crawford playing his son. Great show. Next up is primitive science fiction from the 1950s, Rocky Jones Space Ranger. And I don't know if I have the entire series or not, but I have three volumes of this. These are actually a lot of fun. I mean, you know, they're taking off and flying to Mars and flying to Venus, and of course all these planets have civilizations and all that sort of thing. It's very funny. Well, not funny. It wasn't meant to be funny. It was meant to be serious, but just a lot of great fun. Rocky Jones Space Ranger. A lot of these were sort of edited together to make feature-length films, and I have some of those as well, but I wanted to get the TV shows. So. All right. Next up, let's see. Okay. We are here with my #1 favorite TV show of all time. This is Route 66. It was on for 4 seasons on CBS from 1960 to 1964. And I absolutely love the show. I brought all these down here. I'm just going to show you. This is the first season, volume 1. And this is the 4th season. So I'll just show you that. Martin Milner and George Maharis played a couple of guys from New York City. They were very far apart in backgrounds. George Maharis was from a poor background. Martin Milner was from a more well-to-do background and had been to college and all that. And Martin Milner had this beautiful Corvette convertible. Wow. Which they got in it and they decided to explore America by driving down Route 66, the famous highway that goes from, let's see, Chicago all the way to California. And of course, they veered off of Route 66 quite a bit in a lot of these episodes, but these were so much fun to watch, and great writing, serious stories, a lot of great guest stars, and just a very cool show. Now, George Maharis, I think it was in season 3, I'm not sure, that he began missing a lot of shows. I think he had an illness, and eventually he dropped out of the series altogether and was replaced by another actor named Glenn Corbett. So, but Martin Milner was there for the entire run of the series. Great show. Love it. Next up is another syndicated TV show that I didn't watch when I was a kid, but I remember hearing so much about it. And later on, I decided, I saw it in reruns and I wanted to collect it. This is Sea Hunt, starring Lloyd Bridges. Wow, as a scuba diver named Mike Nelson, who spends all of his time soaking wet underwater. And yeah, very cool. Sea Hunt. And every once in a while, his sons, Bo and Jeff, would show up in the series. And I think Leonard Nimoy is in one. It's a very cool show. Next up, this is a series I bought. It's called Science Fiction Theater, which I don't remember seeing or even hearing about. So I just bought it strictly out of curiosity. Vintage television from 1955 to 1957. And I don't know if this is the entire series or not. It's got quite a number of episodes. So this is going to be like a blind buy. But that's what I do sometimes. We crazy collectors. Next up, I brought down just 2 of the box sets. 9 seasons of Seinfeld, which is, to me, still probably the funniest show that was ever on television, maybe outside of I Love Lucy. But this is season 1 and 2, and which has the pilot episode, and then we have season 9, which they're taking a bow. And it's a very adult show. If I had kids, I would not let them watch this, but I think it's a very funny show. Still funny today. All right, next up is something from the BBC. I must have found this a big loss and picked it up out of curiosity, as usual. This is called Sherlock, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. So I don't know anything about this, and eventually we'll get around to watching it. It's on my to-watch list, which is about 40 pages long. You know how that goes. Next up is another syndicated Western that I loved when I was a kid. From 1959 to 61, Shotgun Slade, starring an actor named Scott Brady, who was a very good actor in a lot of Western and action films and crime thrillers beginning in the late 1940s. And then he eventually made his way into television. But yeah, these are cool shows. There aren't that many episodes here. 15 episodes here. And I'm not sure how many is in volume 3. But one of the cool things about Shotgun Slade was the music was cool jazz. Right, it wasn't typical Western type music that you might hear for Gunsmoke or something like that, but it was cool jazz, which had nothing to do with the Old West, but kind of made it into an interesting atmosphere. Okay, next up, let's see. This is a TV show, another syndicated show that was only on for 1 season. It's called Shannon. Now, this is supposed to be the entire series, which I bought fairly recently. And this I bought years ago at a flea market. It's got a couple of episodes. This is a guy named George Nader, who was another prominent actor from the 1950s. You might remember him from the famous science fiction show movie Robot Monster. He played the hero in that film. But this is what this is about. It was supposed to be very much ahead of its time and kind of progressive. Joe Shannon was an investigator for an insurance company, and he, in the course of his work, he had this ultra modern 1961 Buick that was equipped with cameras, dictating machine, tape recorders, weapons, and a car phone, which back then, I mean, an actual car phone with an actual dial, which back then was very progressive. Wow, very much futuristic. But Shannon, kind of a cool show. All right, next up, more primitive science fiction from the 1950s. This is Space Patrol. Got 2 volumes of this. Don't know if it's the entire series or not. May not be, but I remember seeing this from 1950, from 1955. I remember seeing these back on the old USA Network, and there was a show on at night called Night Flight. Is that what it's called? Night Flight, yeah. And very cool show. And that's the first time I'd ever heard of this. I did not grow up watching this, but glad to have them now. Next up, I started collecting the Stargate series for some strange reason. I have not yet watched any episodes of Stargate, but I bought this movie, which was kind of the pilot for the whole thing. And then I found a used box set of season 1, which is kind of cool. And then I went ahead and collected the rest of them because most of them were on sale at Barnes & Noble. I didn't bring them all downstairs, but I have all the way up to season 10, which I believe is the last season for Stargate SG-1. I haven't seen any of the other Stargate incarnations, but this one I haven't even opened yet, so I have a lot of Stargate science fiction to watch here. Next up is another Western that I always liked. Didn't see it when it was first on, but I saw it in reruns many years later. This is Sugarfoot. 4 years, 1957 to 1961, starring a very cool actor named Will Hutchins, who was a Warner Brothers contract player back in the day. And these are great fun. He was kind of kind of a mild-mannered guy who he was studying law on a correspondence course, riding through the West, and he tried to be an easygoing cowboy type, and didn't want to carry a gun and all that sort of thing. It's kind of an interesting take on. Now I'm going to sit here and choke. That's cool. Interesting take on the Western mythos, I guess. All right, 2 seasons of Superman. The only 2 that I have season 1, which is my favorite because it's in black and white, and they have just a little different kind of quality, different Lois Lane. Phyllis Coates was playing Lois Lane in season 1. I liked her a lot better than Noel Neal, who took over after they went into color. And I do like the entire show, and I would like to get more of them, but I just happened to pick these up used. So, and finally, I'm going to show you that I had a TV show that I absolutely fell in love with was Taxi. So I bought season 1 in this package, and then later on, of course, I found Taxi, the entire series. So now I have that. So great show. I think that is a very, very funny show. And okay, and finally, I'm gonna stop here after I show you Boris Karloff, Thriller, another syndicated show. I think it was on for 2 years, 1958, 1960, not sure, but oh wow, what a great show. I remember seeing this all the time when it was in repeats, and I'm so glad I have this compilation here. Very creepy, scary, atmospheric shows, all of them introduced by Boris Karloff, and he was in some of the episodes, although I don't think he was in quite that many. I'm not sure, but I've watched some of these years ago when I first discovered Netflix. I decided to start getting the DVDs sent to me every couple of weeks or so, and I was doing pretty well with Thriller, and really had no intention of buying it. And then Netflix raised the prices. I got pissed off, and I just cut them off. But I'm glad this came out because I'm glad to have this Boris Karloff Thriller. And I'm going to stop right there. And the rest of this, getting up to letter X and some of the box sets that I have, I will try to do that maybe tomorrow and get this series over with. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you remember any of these TV shows, and comments are always welcome.